Hi everyone, welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. Today we are going to make a very simple recipe. You're going to just see how easy this is. If you're looking for a nice treat, one that doesn't take a lot of time, this is the recipe for you. And it's a very small recipe, so you could easily double, triple, quadruple, whatever you want. It's a coconut bonbons, and as you can probably tell, I do like coconut, because I've already used coconut a few times in my previous recipes. So what you're going to do is just mix everything together. Here I've got shredded unsweetened coconut, a touch of vanilla, a bit of maple syrup, a teaspoon of oil, and a touch of yogurt. So I'm going to put in the coconut, and I'm just going to grab a spatula here, add in our vanilla, add in our yogurt, and this is about a tablespoon. I like to use a Greek yogurt. And I would use a plain. I mean, if you want, you can use vanilla, but it's not necessary. In fact, if you didn't have vanilla extract, you could just use vanilla yogurt. And I've got here 1.5 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. You could also use honey. I would recommend, look, pretty much all that maple syrup came out. That's because I greased this little mini container before I put it in. I would just do that with anything molasses related. And we're going to put our oil in. And we're just going to mix this together until it's all well combined. You could do this in a food processor, but really, you can just see how easy this is. It's already together. This is exactly all we need to do. And this recipe is not going to make much. This might get you 5 or 6, but it's not meant to get you that much. I just like to do a small recipe if you were craving for something sweet. So what you're going to need to do is form these into balls, and if you want, you can. You could, if you wanted to, add some chopped nuts if you want. I just prefer them like this. I'm just going to put them on a baking sheet with parchment paper, or in my case, I'm using foil because I just didn't have any parchment paper left, so I was forced to compromise. So I'm making these a little smaller than usual. So it's going to have a coconut outside. And what you're going to need to do is, once I finish putting all these on our baking sheet, they're going to go, you could either put them in the fridge to set completely, but I would strongly advise you, because putting them in the fridge, they're not going to set very quickly. So I would recommend putting them in the freezer for about an hour. And what you could do, before the full hour's up, about maybe a quarter way, maybe after even about 10 or 15 minutes in the freezer, roll them in either coconut, either more coconut, or you could, in my case, I'm going to be using unsweetened cocoa powder. I just think it's a good thing to put on the outside. And you'll see, if it's a little wet to you, like for me, this is good, but sometimes I find, depending on the coconut you use, sometimes I find that it doesn't really bind together well. If you need to up or down your coconut amount, you might, but I find this works well for me. So far I've gotten 7 actually. I'm probably going to get about 8 out of this recipe. 8 mid-sized bonbons. And the nice thing about this recipe is that it's not like other candy recipes where you need a candy thermometer and then you're at the stove and it takes forever. No, with this, it's very quick and easy. So yeah, I'm going to be getting about 8 out of this, but depending on the size you use, you might get more or less. It all depends. But right now, as it stands, these are too fragile to roll in our cocoa powder. So I'm going to put them in the fridge for about 10 minutes to at least set, or in the freezer I should say, for about 10 minutes just to set. And then I'm going to roll it in cocoa powder and then put it back in the freezer for about 40-50 minutes, remove them, and then store them in an airtight container. That's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. The freezer does most of the work. It's very easy to put together. It uses ingredients you probably have on hand, and it's very simple. So I got about 8 out of this, so if you need more, you can double this recipe, triple, and it's very easy, just double, triple the amounts. Anyway, I'm going to put these in the freezer, and I will show you what they look like once they're out. Alright, so after about 15 minutes, these have had time to at least set a little bit, to shape themselves. So now I'm just going to dust each of these with some cocoa powder. You could also use confectioner sugar if you prefer, but I just prefer cocoa powder. I think it works well for this dessert. And it looks like a very impressive dessert and looks like you really took a lot of time to do this, but in reality it's a very simple, easy recipe. And it's very delicious too. And there's not many ingredients involved. Anyway, I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer again for another 30-40 minutes to set, and then we're going to store it in an airtight container, and I will come back later and take a taste for you. As you can see, I tried one of the coconut bonbons, and it was quite delicious. The cocoa flavor is very, very nice. Obviously, it's unsweetened cocoa powder, so it's not a very sweet chocolate, but the middle part is nice. And let me tell you, the thing I like about this dessert is that it's actually very light, yet it's very satisfying. It's lighter than many other dessert options. You got a nice coconut flavor, and it's complemented well with the chocolate. However, if you didn't want to use chocolate, you could easily use coconut, sorry, not coconut. Actually, well, you could use coconut on the outer shell if you wanted even more coconut, but what I was going to say is you could dust it in powdered sugar, which would be equally good. So you can store these after they've set. You can store them in an airtight container and keep them in the fridge, and they're good for up to a week. They're very good on their own, or with tea would be nice, or coffee. Anyway, I hope you give these a try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.